So crossing an area here with a group of hunter-gatherers, or the closest thing to hunter-gatherers still in existence on the planet, and walking across a fallow field, a piece of land obviously utilized by agro-pastoralists. So the agro part being agriculture, hence the straightish lines here, and the clearing and cutting down of many of the trees. Also a charcoal pit right there, another agro-pastoralist activity. Meanwhile, bushes are heavily grazed. There's domestic animal scat everywhere, and there are some of these old acacia fences. So just interesting to see the interaction between the Hadza and the groups around here. Something I can't go into depth too much on because I'm have a major language barrier, but interesting to think about. Here's some more gully erosion, and so just interesting to notice how the edges of some agricultural areas are often sources of important plant and animal resources for a hunter-gatherer group. So implications there in conservation, agriculture, and ways to make to borrow a permaculture term, to make zones. It seems like it would be possible to make one of the outer zones of management the type of ecosystem that a hunter-gatherer subsistence system would thrive in, because that's basically what a hunter-gatherer subsistence system is, or one that is more on that side of the spectrum, because as I have ranted about before, there is not discrete separation between people who are agriculturalists and people who are hunter-gatherers. There's always some type of management going on. Anyways, it's important to think about how the outer zones, those zones of management that receive more of an extensive approach and less of an intensive approach, start to blend with hunter-gatherer practices. And so I think that it would be fun to do like a little diagram of that, and just something to think about when thinking about indigenous co-management of natural spaces, when thinking about how to produce the most amount of food and preserve the most amount of biodiversity. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. So just a couple ideas there, things that I think people need to be thinking about, and not forgetting that there's actually there's plenty of lessons that we can take from how humans lived for the majority of our existence. 99.9% of the existence of Homo sapiens is time spent as hunter-gatherers in small groups. So there's a lot there, and there's a lot of bioregionally specific information too. So how are the botanical resources of this place potentially useful for the rest of the world? Things that haven't been appreciated yet, because often there's a stigma with plants that are associated with hunter-gatherer lifestyles. So we're getting further up on the slopes, and just came through a lot more rocky area. But now we're coming through just more scrub, less rock, more of the sand. But yeah, the substrate's getting good again, but for a while it was really rocky. And we're getting up into even less prime land for agripastoral activities, but there's still charcoal harvesting, and there is browse, and you see a lot of these fences built for managing livestock. And also I was just thinking about the path that we were walking on was originally opened to access resources, and like a footpath, animal path, not big enough for much of a cart, but it's interesting to see how those develop. It's sometimes caused by places where there's water courses, or sometimes creating a place for a water course, because through the process of walking on them, everything gets more compressed and carries water. So right here is an example of a place where you can see that either this was a water course before and became a path, or the path is becoming a water course. And you can see active gully erosion taking place in here. And based on what I've seen so far, the gullies develop very fast. See how steep the sides are there, even at the very initiation of it. So I'm not sure what factors, climatic factors, soil factors are involved in that, but there's definitely a lot of serious erosion. Someone just fell up ahead, so there's a lot of laughing about that. Still baobabs in this kind of area. Definitely seems like one of the plant resources that does really well in marginal areas, and it produces a lot of different products, and is habitat for many wild animals, and it also is habitat for at least one species of stingless bee, and I assume the stinging apis genus of bees as well, based on what I've heard. So definitely a very useful tree, which apparently also was at times used for storing water in the dry season, rainwater in the top of it. I could believe that, and yeah, just an interesting and useful plant, symbolic as well overall. So now we're getting into that rocky granite stuff that sparkles when the sun's hitting it. I think this trail looks sort of familiar to me, but not sure. So yeah, just partway through the morning here, 7:55. More smoke up ahead and the sun coming back out here. Pushing for it after baboons, I'm assuming. One thing to think about is how far away they have to travel to reach medium-sized game animals. So far, besides birds and squirrels and dik-dik, I haven't seen anything bigger than a dik-dik that didn't have to be hunted, an hour or more walk from the camp. I'm sure that changes during the rainy season and shoulder seasons, but and I know that I have a pretty small sample size, but still just an indication, I think, of the replacement of wild animal game species by domesticated animal species such as goats and cows and dogs. And so just interesting to think about how much competition is actually taking place there, especially with the herbivores. I mean, as I walk over this ground, there's almost no spot that's not already walked on by goats or cattle. And that also has, their poop everywhere and their browse sign everywhere. And pretty much every type of grass is down to stubble that I've seen so far this time of year. So just, that's got to have a huge impact on the wild animals. Oh, here's an example of that berry plant, but up here they're all turned black, maybe because it's drier. Anyways, that's not a forever resource. Like, I was impressed by what seems like a lot of the fruit here being things that keep on the plant for a long time, but I can see that's not infinite. Yeah, so just that whole competition with the domestic animals is something that I think would be really good to get some information from Jonathan Kingdon about, because he rants about it a little bit in his mammals book, and I think he's a very good thinker and is interested in why it matters, not just recording the data randomly about animals, but how it matters evolutionarily, ecologically, and also taking into consideration the human factor, the human subsistence, need for subsistence is also connected to the same environment that provides for wildlife and thereby tourism. So how can the needs of both those things be taken into consideration in a way that is a little bit more intentional and more informed by modern understandings or modern scientific understandings, as well as traditional indigenous understandings of ecosystems. So just came up to the spot here with a big vista. Pretty epic spot here. And I think that they see monkeys across the way. So we're on relatively fresh baboon trail right now, after passing by where they supposedly spend the night, and seeing lots of scat on the rocks around here, and speeding up pace again. This is really turning into an endurance race today. Been going pretty fast here for a while. I'm just pushing hard through some serious gray thorn canyons, just completely full of things that will spike you or hook you, and half crawling, half running through these tunnels browsed by goats, and just got into an area now where you can actually stand up all the way. But we were on baboon trail for a while there, and then there was some really fresh eland scat, so we were on its trail for a little bit, and then back on the baboons, I think, is the freshest thing going. Cruising at a pretty good speed here through lots of the a bit acacia, which will really snag you up. Dogs are cruising along, people are cruising along. The motorcycle driver decided to head back down a more open road. Hopefully that works out for him and he finds his way back to the motorcycle. But yeah, just serious exercise. And I can see the fresh baboon sign now, and just when I was thinking that, I saw everybody start running and heard sounds. So definitely at least the front runners are into them and the dogs are into them. But down here you can see the tracks, baboon tracks right there. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a serious fight going on. And there's actually a bunch of mouse birds flying in that direction, curiously enough. Maybe some mob predator behavior. Not totally sure. But it definitely seemed correlated, not causative. There's so many thorns here. There's the ones that'll hook you from above. There's the ones that'll hook you from below. And you can't even brush into them. If you even brush into it just a little bit, they'll rip you. Alright, I'm gonna run and then catch back up. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a serious fight going on between dogs and baboons. Looks like it goes back and forth both ways, but there's a whole pile of them in one spot that might have one. Multiple dogs have joined in on this single pile, so the rest of the group is running, the rest of the group of baboons is running back up the ridge, but I don't see any of the people yet. I think they're still a ways off, shouting out, oh, here comes somebody, here comes somebody. He reached a group of dogs. Wow, so finally got into them. It's 11 o'clock. Been running hard today to catch this group, and just sort of this opportunistic roving until finding the closest sign. Alright, back in the... So, long hunt and walking back out now. One guy is still out there somewhere in some time, and there was a bunch of calling to try to locate him or give him an idea of where we were. And while we were there waiting with the one baboon, one of the guys that stayed behind cooked up the little mouse and the bird and ate those with the kid while we waited for two of the other hunters to come back, but one is still out there, the one with the Trader Joe's shirt. But yeah, it's just a long day, just pushing really hard today compared to the two other hunts that I've been on with him. Even though those were hard, this was even harder. So just way up high right now, you can see out over Yasi out there to the, I think that's what direction is that from us? I think that's like to the southwest. Yeah. So, change in direction here again. According to my phone, we've walked 14 miles today. Some of that might be from the bouncy motorcycle ride, but slightly misplaced on the landscape right now and trying to figure out the right way back. Getting almost to sort of mind-altering threshold with walking. It's kind of funny. And just hanging in there on the muscular skeletal level. Great on the cardio. So on the heat and the water and the food. It's 2 o'clock. But, I don't mind the walking, but I'm really not looking forward to the motorcycle ride.